Welcome back everybody, Kathy Arbor here, and today is Watercolor Tuesday. And today we're going to continue in my garden journal, nature journaling type of thing. And I thought today I would finish these bloodroot flowers that I have in my garden. And they're almost done now. There's only maybe one or two flowers left. And they are kind of a white flower, but there is a mauvish, just a light mauvish tinge to it. Hey Candy, hi Joan. I will show you what I'm talking about. Let's see. Nope. So let me find it here. There it is. Okay, so here's what is in my garden. Let's see if I can zoom in on one of these. If you can see that, hopefully, hopefully it's not too whited out. There's actually, in the shadowed areas, it's more of a pinky, dusty rose shade. It's a very unusual flower. They come up first before the leaves, so these are older flowers. So this is the leaf right there, and it's just starting to come up, but the flower buds come up with these kind of pink tinges surrounding it. Hey Dorothy. And then afterwards, once the flower is out, I took one the other day, then this is the leaf. It's very unusual, and when they first all come up, they almost stand up like straight soldiers. They're all at attention. And then as they get into their full size, then they lay flat, like almost like a lily pad, and they're very ornate in the filigree around the. It's like a cut flat leaf, but very deep cuts to it. So these grow in Canada and the upper colder regions of the United States, but I don't know if you can get them anywhere else or not. I think I've seen them on some of the shows in England, but they're rare. They call them rare. But this is the double form. So what I thought I would do, let's see, is possibly, let's see if I got a better picture of that. Okay, see how the flowers they almost like it's a little cape on the flower. It's quite unique. So I think I'm going to draw this one here on my page. And I'm just going to use a, let's see, what kind of pencils do I have here? I'll sharpen this one. Okay. Hey Janet. So I'm just going to be drawing the leaf that goes around these bloodroot plants. So I was telling the girls that they stand up like little soldiers till the flowers are completely done. and then they lay flat like a lily pad after they're done. It's quite unique. It's almost like they're it's a shadow over the ground so they don't get hot. The root is very close to the surface of the ground. So I'm wondering if that's why because they stand up and then they're out. It's really cool how they shade their areas. So I'm just gonna draw this here. So there's quite a filigree of the shape. It's really quite neat. And they're very smooth also. When they lay flat, they almost have a blue tinge to their leaf color, almost like a dusting of blue on top, like a blue hosta has. That's what they kind of look like. And they like the shade. So that's all I'm going to do there. I'll put some of the veining in. They're quite veiny looking. There's a main vein that goes up the center, as you can see. Can't really see that on too much. Okay. I'll put some there. In there. Okay. Protecting the most important part. Yeah. It's really cool. And they don't have any stamens to talk about, really. I'll see if I can take a picture of one that's, I think I have one left. And there's really no here's where the flower was. So there's nothing really, that's all there was. It almost looks like a stem. It's very unusual. So after I'm done doing the drawing with, and this is an HB pencil, I just take the eraser from a kneaded eraser and just lightly go over it so that, especially the white part where the flowers are, because you don't want a lot of that showing. You don't mind a little bit, but not a lot. And I will go on it with ink, but the flowers are going to be done more like I'm concentrating with the shadows of the white. So like I said before, these aren't really white. They kind of look like they are, but they're not. They're almost deep in the center is a little bit of a pink dusty rose shade. And the tubers that they're growing are kind of a what would you say? It's almost got a reddish tinge to it, or an orange rust look to their tubers. So I'm just going to lighten this area a little bit too. So are any of you starting a garden journal or nature journal, or just wanting to sketch something. Hey, Elaine. So I think I'm going to do the green first. That's a beautiful green. So it's more like a hooker's green. So this is what this is here. So I think I'm just going to use what's left on my palette and add a little bit of yellow to it, possibly, to brighten it up a little bit. I want lots of water. Forgot my spray bottle. I could use a gold green too. So I've got a gold green here. I'm just gonna put in this. It's perfect color for some of the lighter areas that's in there. So I think I'll follow the way this looks here. It's not necessarily what I had in my garden, but it'll do. So I'm going to take some of this hooker's green and mix it over here with a little bit of this gold green, I guess you call it. Got a hair on there. Just a little bit. And I'm just going to put a light wash on there. And I'm going to do this before I do my pen work. So I have to take it, remember where my flowers are, because you don't want to cover any of the leaves or petals. And like I said before, these are just quick sketches of my different flowers, plants, probably do some birds, maybe squirrels, that type of thing. That's in my backyard, or if I go on a walk or a drive somewhere, whatever I see that looks like it could be interesting to draw, then I'll stop and draw it, or take a picture and come back and draw when I'm at home. You don't have to draw while you're in the area or when you see it. You can just take a picture of it. I know these days you don't really want to be out in public, especially if there's a bunch of people around, because you just never know what people are like. I think this goes down in here. This is another one that's just unfurling. Just going around the petals of the white flower. I'm not going to worry too much if I go outside the edge either. Sometimes it looks nice if you do that too. This one here is, when they're first coming out, they almost have a little bit of a smoky green color, more on the gray side. So let's see, I think over on, I have some dirty palette paint over here, so I'm just going to use that. It's kind of on the grayish side, and I'm just going to use it just to show the difference in the two petals or two leaves that are coming out. And these are very, very watered down washes. And you don't want to put too much water on these. This isn't watercolor paper, it's just a sketchbook. So it's not going to hold a whole lot of water. Cass makes this look... Just try it. The more you do, the better and easier it gets. Promise you. Now these roots are kind of that rusty color. So I have some, again, on my palette, some dirty brownish rust color. So I'm just going to put that in here. You don't have to do the watercolor either. If you want to do it in colored pencil or marker, whatever medium you want to use it. Use what you got. Don't go out and buy something. Just use what you have. If you have kids' paints, maybe your kids have some paints, use those. This isn't something that's going to be framed, so just use what you have. Okay. I think that's good enough. Do you want me to bring you in, or do you want to see my palette too? Because you get this way, you get to see my picture and everything. Okay, it's still a little bit wet. We could start off with the flowers. Let's see. They are right here. Okay, so here's the bud. See how it's kind of got a purpley pink around the edges. Hey, she spins. So we'll start off with this one here. And I have some magenta here, so I can add some clean water to that. And maybe I'll just take a little bit of this blue here. There we go. That's a good color. And I'm going to wet the area that I want to put this on first. And I'm going to go right into the white area also. But I'm only going to put the color on the bottom, but it will spread. And I'll just let it do its thing. Hey, Nancy. And this one here, it also has some. So I'm just going to wet that outer edge. And I'm going to take some of that color again. And I'm just touching, not necessarily painting, just touching, dabbing, just the areas that would have this color. This way you kind of get not as sharp an edge. And this flower here, I think it was this one here. Yeah. Okay. See, I don't know if this is going to show on camera. See that pinky color in the center there? And then whatever this is, I'm not sure. Still haven't, it's got a very strange form in the center, is kind of a limey green on the very back of it, and then it goes to a white point. But all these shadows are more of a grayish mauve color, so those are the colors that we're going to concentrate on. So we're going to be actually painting more in a negative way. So I'm going to do that green piece first. So I'm going to wet with clean water my whole flower. If you have any questions, just leave it in caps so I can see it. And then hopefully I'll be able to answer whatever you're asking. Okay, so let's put some of this green color in the bottom here. So I just touched it. And I can always wipe out any areas that it goes past with a damp brush. And then we're going to take some of that pink color again. We want it fairly watered down though. We don't want it too strong. And I'm going to paint around the backs of these petals. So where the shadow would be, basically. And I'm pretty well just dabbing. And I'll do some pen work. So it's kind of spreading around, but it's just giving it that little bit of pink tone that's in the petals. So I'm going to let that dry, or you can dry it with a heat gun. I'll dry it with a heat gun. There. So as you can see how nice it's just very, there's no real hard lines inside the flower, and that's what you want. So now that it's dry, we can get a little bit more precise in where we want these shadows. But we want just a slight tinge. So now I'm gonna, let's see, I've got a smaller brush. This is a number 4. And I think I'm probably gonna go more into the grayish colors. So I've got some kind of a grayish, dirty palette on my dirty palette, I guess you could say. So what I'm going to do is kind of outline around the backs of the petals. So You can, I believe I have that on Instagram if you want to draw this one. You're welcome to use the photo. So I'm going to take a dry, or not dry brush, a clean brush, and just soften the edge as it goes into the petal, so it doesn't give a hard line on the petal as it goes up, but it has a hard line on the back of the petal that's in front of it, if that makes any sense for you. Do you want me to go in a little bit closer, or is it good for you? Just let me know. So it's very tiny, tiny strokes. Just where I'm seeing the shadows. Softening the edges on the one side. As the flower opens a little more, it's a little softer looking, so the lines are less harder edges. And you got to remember too, your paint dries a little lighter than what you put on. So when you're doing white flowers, it's more about negative painting and shadows. So you just have to study what you're doing. And then just paint. Center is a little darker. always. I think this needs a little bit more in there. It's darker. And I'm going to put a little bit of this pinky color in, just around that center. Eating peanut butter and jelly brunch over here. Nothing wrong with that. When they're really tight budded, you don't see the pink in the inside at all, so probably we'll just do a few lines with this dirty grayish green color, just to show how they're tightly bunched together. I think I actually have a gray ink that I could use too. You don't always have to use just black. You can use sepia, blue, whatever color you want. There's no rules here. So whatever you think would look more interesting, try it. Okay, so as that's drying, let's do this leaf here. So as you can see, the veining, this is actually the back of the leaf. So you're seeing the veins sticking out in the back, and they're a little bit on the lighter side, so more of a light gray, I guess you could call it. So because I already have green here, what I could do is take some gouache, and I have some gouache here. I think I'm going to put it, I keep forgetting to bring here's a lid. Put that in there. And I'm just going to maybe add a little bit of that gray color that I had for the flowers to that gouache and mix it in a little bit. And then I'm just going to put my lines in. There's actually a darker section as in the center of the veining. It's up to you how detailed you want. I'm not going to put all of them in, just a few. And it will dry lighter. You may have to go back into it and reapply it. We'll see how this goes. Keep that to the side. And I could actually highlight with that too, or with a marker or colored pencil, whatever you got. Because there is a bit of red tinge around the edges here of that leaf too. So I can take some clean water and just around the very edge, I'm going to just put some water on there. Not everywhere, but just around certain edges. Seems to be quite a bit on the bottom here, right here. And then I'm going to take that same red that we've been using, that we mixed up, and then just dab again so that it's a very, very light kind of wash. Another thing you could probably do too is, I know a lot of us got those real brush zig markers, watercolor markers. This would work awesome with those, the fine details. Okay, now let's see. Go back to this plant here, and we'll add some green to this. Just use that hooker screen that I have, and I'm just gonna, it's very sectional looking, the leaf. See how it is? So I'm just gonna make some squares here and there. I don't know if I'm gonna go that detailed in the plant itself. You could. I'm just gonna do dots. This is almost like Zentangling. And they'll dry a little bit lighter once they're dried. Some of them are bigger than others, some are smaller. And then we'll go in with shadows in some of the areas. I'm going to try and leave a little area where the vein is, so no, these are called bloodroot. I don't know if you have them in your area. They're more for the colder areas, I think. Some they are a medicinal. So the native Indians actually used it for different remedies. But if you read up on it, they can be very toxic. So you kind of have to know what you're doing. I'm not growing them for that, but it's interesting on the history of it. They typically do not have such a rose-like flower. They were normally grown as a single, And then, well, somebody spotted one that was different, and there you go. Got a new type of plant. I believe they used also the root for some of their dyes. Because it's very red. So we'll see how this works out as far as, I think it'll lighten up. We'll see. This is the fun part of doing these drawings, is you learn how to do things. And this is when you can try new things that you haven't tried before, or somebody showed you something and you'd like to try it. Do it in your journal. You know, they're not necessarily for everybody to look at. It's your private journal. So if you don't like it, at least you've learned something. That's the way I always look at it. I'm not gonna, good thing I didn't do a whole bunch of these leaves. You guys would be bored to death. But when some of these botanical illustrators, it takes some days to do a leaf sometimes. I would like to try it just to see if I could do it. But I don't know if I'd have the patience to do something like that all the time. Could they survive the weather here in Eastern? I don't know. I don't think they like, they like a really cool area, and they like to be fairly moist. They don't like to dry out at all. They're usually found in woods areas where there's like hardwoods. Now you can grow them, you can get them in nurseries, special nurseries, but they don't like too much heat. I do find that even in Ontario here, we don't get a lot of really scorching heat here, but they have kind of looked pretty wilty when we've had a huge amount of really hot weather, like 85, that type of, that's hot here. It's probably not hot for you guys, but and especially if it's dry. They do not like to be dry. That'll kill them pretty much. But they are pretty. And the leaves do stay all summer. Okay. So we'll dry that, see what they turns out like. Yeah, that's not bad. Speckled. Okay, so now what we can do, it's not exactly like it, but it's a good, represents it pretty good, I guess. So down some of these areas here, I'm going to add a little bit more of this color, as I think I'll actually wet the area. So around this vein, I'm just going to wet that area. And up here. And then I'm going to take some of this green again and tap it in. And this time it's going right over top. And I'm going to put some right on the very edge too, because they kind of curl over a little bit on the edge. And right in here. Okay, this side is kind of folded, so I can just put a glazing of color down there. And then just certain areas be a little bit shaded. This one's kind of folded over. And a little darker around the edge of the flower here. So it'd be darker in here because it's shaded. So you're still going to see all those dots, but it's going to be a little darker over everything. Now I can go back and do another coat also if this isn't enough. But you should let it dry first. Hi, Anne. And this one, let that dry. Let's go back to that flower. And let's take a look. So we got some kind of dirty color again. So I'm going to take some of that brownish palette color, and I'm just going to do some shaded areas in this. There might be, because these veins are sticking out, there might be a little bit of a shadow along the edge of it. And that gives you dimension when you do that. You don't have to do all of them, but it's fairly dark in here. Some of that yucky color. So it's kind of like a light wash. And there's a line that goes up the center of that vein. It's darker on the bottom. Thanks, Anne. And the same with that bud, it's got that dark color also, just on the base of it. So just showing that it's a little bit on the rounded side. You want a little bit of shade in that area. Let's see. While it's wet, I'll just take my brush, wet it, work it out a little bit so it's not got a hard line. You have to be quick with this paper because it's not watercolor paper. Let's see what else. Can we do any more on that? I'm going to put a little bit more green on the bottom there. Okay. Maybe a little bit of that red again too. Just around the base. It's a little bit darker. I'm just gonna wet the edge so it comes out a little bit. All right, and now let's do, now I don't have a picture, I don't think, of the root. Let's see. Oh, no. There. Nope, but it's not showing. But it's kind of scaly looking, I guess you could say. But I think I will do that with my pen. So I'm just going to put a little bit of shading where it would be touching the ground. They're round looking, they're not flat or anything, so you have to show that there is a roundness to it. And this picture was taking face down, so you got to remember that too. And they kind of peek up from the ground. They kind of go in and out, kind of like a an iris rhizome looks. You know how they kind of pop out and then they go back in the ground a little bit? That's what these kind of look like. So they're very, very surface rhizomes or whatever you want to call them. I'm not sure what they are actually. But they do look scaly looking. Where they go into the ground, they'd be a little bit darker area. You could put dirt in this too. Depends how detailed you want. Maybe you don't want to show the dirt. I don't know. And you could use your pen also to put in some of the detail. Let's see what else. Oh, come on. No, no, no. This phone drives me nuts. There. Okay. I think we see how dark it is, the shadows, so we could actually put another coat of that on. Just in certain areas where the shadow would be from the flower even. Around the edge. That's the nice thing about watercolor too, is you can just add a little bit at a time till you think it looks right. And then there's kind of a little bit of a white glow around the edge. You see that? So that will kind of be hard to put in, but I could put it in towards the flower so it gives that impression once these are dried. I'm going to put some of this gouache on here. It's kind of scaly looking, and there are some lighter areas. I haven't got a picture of it, so you're gonna have to trust me. It's almost looked like scales, like fish scale almost. Of course, it would be lighter on the top because the sun's shining on it, but and I could also use Posca or something like that too. All right, let's see. What else? Don't think I want to put ground necessarily, like dirt, but I think I want a little bit of shadow. So I'm going to take some of that dirty palette paper, or paint, and just in these areas I'm going to paint a bit of a shadow. just to show it's on something, so it's not floating. And it helps to find those petals. Maybe a little bit here. Hey Jilly, good to see you. Kim? Okay. So there's the plant so far. So I'm going to dry it and then decide what color of pen I want, ink. So your paper does get crumply, but once you close the book and leave it closed for a few days, it goes right flat again. It does for me anyways. So I don't worry about that type of thing, really. All right, so what color? Black, sepia. I know I do have a gray pen. I'm not sure where I put it. If I can even find it. I think I'm going to go with sepia. This is a 01. I don't know if that's too, it's pretty small. Let's see. Maybe a 05. 05. Okay, so I'm just gonna go around the base of this root thing, and you can shade in the areas by cross hatching. or if you want, you could go in with more paint. I like to think about the shape when I'm cross-hatching. And I don't like having them all exactly the same length. I like seeing it a little uneven. I just think it gives a little more character. This would be the ground it's going into there. They have kind of scaly looking marks on the, it's very unusual looking. And I'm just going to make some quick marks for that. I don't want to outline it too much. You don't want it to be a contour drawing, which means the whole thing is outlined. That's not the look I want. There's some areas that dip in and some areas that are bumping out. You can take different nib sizes too if you want something a little more finer. Sometimes that's always good to go a little bit finer looking. I can always go back and add more color if I wanted to, because this is a permanent marker. It's always good to find a permanent marker. I like them. Let's see. I think I'll use that small one now, the one. If you just want nice, very, I'm just quickly doing, it's not necessarily a lot of line work, just where I would notice some shadowing in the flower bud area. So you don't want it too noticeable, because then it kind of destroys the softness of the flower. And I kind of do it in the dips or the corners where petals meet. Or where you think there'd be more of a shadow near the ground, probably. This is how you learn also what you like as far as the style. There's so many ways of doing this type of work. So you kind of have to get out and do this and try different things, because you'll never find out what your particular style is that you prefer until you do a bunch of these. So kind of have to play with it a bit. So I can still see some of my marks here. That's why it's nice not to erase everything. A little darker right in the center. It is a lot darker. Those leaves look cool, Janet. I've never taken the time to look up close. Yeah, Judy, it's awesome. Take time and, you know the old saying, Smell the flowers, smell the roses. It's amazing. And I love studying stuff like this. And there's always a reason why they're formed or colored a certain way. Either to ward off things or attract different types of bugs. It's quite interesting. Okay, and I could, let's see. Then I could take and just underline some of these and kind of attach them on the bottom part. So you're keeping the shadow of these bumps on the one side. So it gives it a little more dimensional look. I'll show you in a minute. And this way you could almost attach them a little bit too, so that it looks like part of the veining. Depends how, again, how much detail do you want? I love doing detail. It's, I just do. I don't know why. I just love detail. And I think that's when the magic happens in art, when things start to look 3D and they look alive. And it really doesn't take a whole lot either in detail for that to happen. That's the neat thing. You know, and a lot of people look at a painting or a drawing or something and think, oh my God, that's a lot of work. I can't do it. But really, when you break it down in the process of how to do it, it's not a lot of work. And for me, it's the process that I love. I like the process of drawing, taking time and seeing how it turns out. Yeah, I love the finished product, but I think my biggest reason for painting and drawing is the process. You know how some people like running or exercising? It's most of them, it's the addiction of the adrenaline that they get while running. It's not necessarily doing it to be healthy or lose weight or something. They eventually get craving that feeling of freedom of running. And in a way, that's kind of what I see this as. It's a freedom of losing yourself in art. So you don't think of anything else. Your mind's totally on what you're doing and what you're seeing. And you totally lose yourself in art. So it's a great stress reliever, especially in these times. So give it a try. Just be in the present moment when you're doing it to enjoy everything about it, and do not criticize your work. Look at it as you're going back to school to learn something. You're not looking at the end result, you're looking to learn. And you'll enjoy it a whole lot more. Yeah, time flies. It's just, it's an awesome creativity. Everybody, doesn't matter what you do, in some form, you were meant to be creative in some way, whether it's cooking, gardening, drawing, arting, sewing, writing. There's always a creative side to most things. Auto mechanics, painting a house. There's fixing people, being a doctor. It's a creative process. We all need it. We do. We feel so much better after we've done something creatively. It's like, I don't know, it gives you an adrenaline or some sort of chemical that's released in your brain when you're doing these types of things. Yeah, it does. It brings joy. See how that punched it up again? Just a few of those lines. It made it even more dimensional. Now you could take a white marker or a yellow marker and do some dots for highlights. So let's see what we can do. Now I said I was going to put a little bit of highlight on. Let's see, I wonder if I have. Should I do white, or I wanted to put some of that yellow veining in. Do I have a yellow pen? Let me think. Or a marker. No, I think I need a marker of, did I put those upstairs? I think I did. Oh, here they are. Hopefully I have a yellow marker in here and I can add a little bit more, and then some white. Okay. Thanks, Dot. That emoji's with the membership, Judy. Okay, let's see if I can get this going. Okay. So all I'm doing is kind of following around some of these with a little bit of this yellow marker. And I am not a purist, so if I have some kind of supply that's going to make something easier, I'll use it. That's why I mix media. There you go. See how it helped it? Now I could do a little bit of white. I could use a white pen. Let's see. Got one here. Let's see if this one works. Yep. And I'm just going to put a little bit of white highlights in certain areas. And I'm putting it in towards the green area so it shows a little bit. See, there's no real highlights in the leaf itself, so I'm not gonna probably do anything there. You could. Maybe I'll put some though on the leaf if it's gonna show some of these areas. It might just fade in though. Not sure how much this will stay white. Same within here. A lot of times the paint just comes right into it. You could use a paint marker probably and add a few here and there. And maybe a little bit more in there. And I'm just going to add a few lines going up in the direction of it's a round ball basically. It just needed a little bit more definition there, showing it. And maybe this. All right. And there it is. I think it turned out pretty good. So that is the bloodroot. So you can go on Instagram if you want to draw this up too. Be my guest. Thanks, Judy. And as you can see, I'm starting to do a little bit of journaling in some of these. Haven't done a lot, but I think what I'm probably going to be starting to add to is a little bit of maybe Zentangling in the borders or something. Would be kind of cool. So I don't know if you would like to see me do some of that too. Let me know in the description. And if you're in the membership this Friday for the blooming artists, we will be doing the class online for the live stream. So I will put together some supply lists, and I'll send you the traceable. And for the budding artist, there'll be a video coming up for you too. And it's not live, but it's a stream done real time. There's no sped up. So look for that probably Friday also, or Saturday. Thanks, guys. Glad you like it. Thanks, Maggie. All right, so we'll see you Thursday, because Thursday is the Mixed Media live stream at 1 o'clock every Thursday. So hope to see you there. And while you're waiting for that, or this evening, or when you're taking a walk, make sure you take some pictures of some flowers you see, or trees, or bushes, or whatever, and get drawing. Get creative. And try this out. You don't have to have expensive stuff to do it. Just get out and enjoy the now. And it'll make you feel a whole lot better. So I'll let you guys go, and you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you on Thursday. Bye for now.